And we are live. Hello, guys, and welcome to Jason Hebert Live. We have another missing persons case for you. And this one actually, it's a missing persons case, but this one involves 6 teenage boys missing from Pickering, Ontario, Canada. So this case is nearly 25 years old. Many of you have probably heard of it. As you know, on this channel, sometimes it's usually a missing persons case. Sometimes it's a different kind of unsolved crime. But either way, the goal of this channel is to help spread awareness, get stories out there, and help bring closure to families that need it. Typically, we interview the family members of the subject of the case. Tonight, we'll be talking to a private investigator that's on the case. So tonight will be a little different than most shows, but we're always interviewing someone who is highly vested in whatever case we're talking about. So the difference with our show compared to many others is you get the story directly from the horse's mouth typically versus hearing someone like me that just kind of reads the story and then repeats it to you in my own words. Instead, we try to go directly to someone involved with it, and you can ask questions. So in a case like this, you might have had a question for 20 years that you're saying, geez, I never can get this question answered. Well, with our show, it is interactive. You have the chat there. You can ask the questions directly. We can't always get to absolutely every question, of course, because sometimes there are hundreds of people in the chat. Even tonight, we already have 60 people. We're just getting started, so I anticipate there'll be a good amount. But I promise you, we'll get to every question that we can and get them answered. So, or maybe it's a brand new case that you just found about 2 minutes ago, and you're getting flooded with questions. Either way, you'll be able to get them answered. So, hello to everyone in the chat. Like I said, we got about 65 people in here, so more than I'll be able to name. But we got some of our longtime members that are here for almost every show: Annie, Pam, Angie, Mary. Luis, hey Luis, haven't seen you in a bit. Shiva, Chris Marie, and Nick. What's up, Nick Graziano? Check him out, guys. He also is a true crime YouTuber. He does a great job on his channel, so I recommend you guys check him out. And he also has some footage of our channel on his. He's referenced it in some of his videos, so check him out. Always support the newer guys and gals that are coming up and trying to make a difference that may not have the reach that that someone else does. Try to help them out and help them grow. But speaking of having other absolutely amazing people that we're involved with, I'd like to introduce tonight's co-host, the lovely Denise McGarity.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for joining us again, Denise.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
You guys probably know Denise well. You've done probably, a good 7 or 8 co-hostings by this point?
Probably, absolutely, yes.
So she always does a great job. She was particularly important tonight because although our guest, is similar, an investigator on the case, Denise knows quite a bit about this case. She's been following it for about a year or so, would you say, Denise?
Yeah, about a year. Before I looked into it, but about a year I started really looking into this. So, and have spoken to the family on this case.
All right. We got about 20 people saying, hi, Denise, hi, Denise, hi, Denise, trying to get them all on the screen there.
I see them.
Kubi says, hi, Home Slice. She's trying to be a little, she always trying to show off that Kubi, trying to be different.
Love Kubi.
Laughing Ox says, generic greeting.
Generic greeting, that's hilarious.
So we're in like the low 90s. We're getting to about 100 people, so that's a good start. Looks like we got some interest in this case, so thank you so much, guys, for your interest in joining us. And myself, Denise, and our guest tonight, who is Bruce Ricketts, a private investigator on the case, promise to do our very best for you and answer every question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of we just hit 100 people. All right, guys, I'm going to hit the very basics of the case. As you guys know, I try to give you a little bit of an idea of what the heck we're talking about before we bring the guest on, but I try not to say too much because a lot of it's going to be repeated by them, and they're going to say it a heck of a lot better than me. So it's kind of pointless for me to give you guys stuff that's just going to be said 5 minutes later, much better anyway. So I'm going to give you guys the very, very basics. So this is from mysteriesofcanada.com, which is a website I actually just found out was actually started by our guest tonight. I didn't even know that when I picked the website. So that shows you how much he knows about it. I randomly picked his site as the one that was going to be most useful. So this guy knows his stuff, Mr. Ricketts. And so let me just read a couple paragraphs of that, and then we will bring Bruce on. On the late evening of March 17th, 1995, after a spring break party which included copious amounts of alcohol, 6 teenage boys from Pickering, Ontario left the party. That was the last time they were ever seen. Witnesses and evidence suggest the boys went down to the beach looking for adventure. And once there, they may have stolen a 4-meter imitation Boston Whaler motorboat and a 3-wheeled paddle boat from separate marinas on Frenchman's Bay. That being said, I want to make this point very clear. We say this in every show because it's always relevant. Anything that we say tonight, there are no hard accusations made about anybody, whether it be the 6 boys, a suspect, whether it's myself, Bruce, Denise. If anybody says anything, everything is alleged. There are no hard accusations made. It's all just people trying to piece together and figure out puzzle pieces of what's going on. Once there, it's believed they headed out for a joyride on the cold, icy waters of the lake without life jackets. Before they left at around 12:50 a.m. on Friday, the boys told a friend they were going to, quote, goof around on a boat. The boys were all students and friends at a local high school. They included Jay Boyle, Michael Cummins, Daniel Higgins, and Chad Smith, Robbie Rumbolt, and Jamie Lefebvre, I believe is that's how that's said. Let me just show you guys a quick screenshot. I'm going to be showing pictures throughout the interview, but let me just real quick show you guys here. So this is Jay Boyle, Robbie Rumbolt, and I know they aren't the biggest pictures. We'll have some better ones in just a moment, but just so you guys get an idea. Jamie Lefebvre. Think I'm saying that right? Is it Lefebvre, Denise?
I think so, yes.
Okay. Michael Cummins, Chad Smith, and Danny Higgins. The only evidence of the boys' fate included at 1:48 a.m., a surveillance camera caught 3 of the boys, Michael, Jamie, and Robbie, entering East Shore Marina somewhere between 2:30 and 3 a.m. Some local residents heard the sound of a motorboat out on the lake. And finally, the next morning, 2 boats were reported stolen from 2 marinas. The police believe the boats capsized and hypothermia gripped the boys within minutes. The boys were first reported missing by worried girlfriends on Friday. The police did not treat their concern seriously until Saturday afternoon when they connected the boys to the missing boats. And here is the marina here in the harbor. Can you see that, Denise? Is that?
I can, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm making sure. We'll get a couple more paragraphs in, then we'll bring on Bruce. By 2 p.m. Saturday, 36 hours after the boys were last seen, a massive search was underway. Durham police were joined by the Toronto Police Marine Unit, the Coast Guard, Hercules C-130 aircraft, and a helicopter from the Air Sea Rescue Unit at Canadian Forces Base Trenton. They found nothing. Thousands of volunteers from across southern Ontario then joined the hunt, but no bodies, no boats, no pieces of clothing. The only item found on the lake was a gas can belonging to the Boston Whaler. And we do have a picture of that, correct, Denise?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that is the exact gas can, but I believe it was very similar.
So we have a picture of a similar gas can and a similar boat to the Boston Whaler.
Exactly, yes. To show the size of what that boat looked like.
Okay, yeah, because 6 boys on there probably would have been rocking and yes. It's
a very small boat.
Yeah, for sure. Especially for 6 drunk boys there to goof off. I'm sure they're jumping around and probably knowing boys, teenage boys, probably wrestling. And of course, that's all, guessing. I don't know, but you know how drunk boys can get. Drunk people in general, right?
Exactly.
Particularly boys. What happened to the boys? Why was no personal evidence of their fate ever found? Was there some sort of pact between the boys? Was there foul play? Did the boys actually die? Or was there an elaborate plot to just disappear? These questions and many more have never been answered in the last, it says 14 years, but this was 95, right? So we're talking 25 years at this point, 26
Correct,
years.
yes.
And what of the location? The East Shore Marina is adjacent to the Pickering nuclear facility. To get into Lake Ontario from Frenchman's Bay, the boys would have to literally pass by the plant. I don't know why that's super relevant. Maybe Bruce can get into that. But the Lost Boys of Pickering is truly a mystery of Canada. And it says, thanks to Ruben Ben-Mergway for bringing the story to my attention. This was written by, this was not Bruce, right? Does it say? I don't think it has the author name. All right, guys. Either way, I think, is this the comment? Yeah, no, that's the commenter name. Okay. All right, guys. So again, that's from mysteriesofcanada.com. Full credit to them. And thank you so much for a great job on that excellent article. And okay, we are going to bring on tonight's guest. I don't want to make him wait too long. For our highly esteemed guest, Mr. Ricketts. Sir, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We do appreciate you coming on and helping us hopefully bring some kind of answers and finally solve this mystery.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen tonight. One thing for you, the Jamie is Jamie Lefebvre.
Lefay.
Okay, I apologize for that.
Yeah. Good French type name like Hébert.
Hey, oh my God. Hey, I'll tell you what, that's the correct way of saying it, and I'll definitely take that other than the other way it's pronounced often, which is Sherbert or Herbert. People say Herbert and then convert it to Sherbert. So I'll take Hébert is the correct way of saying it, and almost nobody knows that except some people in Canada and New Orleans. Louisiana in general, I should say.
Okay.
Everywhere the Frenchies went, right?
You got it.
All right, so why don't you start? As I had said, you guys are experts in this case compared to me. So do you want to start with giving us a little bit of a timeline? Take us into what we do know from that night. Kind of fill in some of the blanks that haven't been mentioned so far, and let's go from there.
Sure. I think the evening isn't in the case. Just getting involved with it. Since that point in time, and now I have probably, I don't know, 1,600 pages of information. I have videos and photographs and everything else that I've been collecting over the years and sharing with some of the families. That is actually a photograph right there. Is that online?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that is actually the gas tank.
That is the gas tank. Okay.
Yeah, that gas tank was found floating upside down near Wilson, New York.
Oh,
which
wow.
Wilson, New York is actually diametrically opposite or south of Pickering. The reason for the circles on it was that by the way is the only piece of evidence that's ever been found, and it was described or ascribed by one of the workers at the marina as being the gas can that was in that Boston whaler. The reason he recognized it is because number one circle there is actually a very, very small dent, which you can barely see. Mm-hmm. But he said he claimed that that dent was what identified that can.
Oh, wow. Right here, yeah.
Yeah. So you can, it wasn't much of a dent. You can see that the can is actually labeled in both French and English, which meant it was probably from Canada. The number two circle had to do with that's the inlet or the outlet, I should say, for the gasoline. That uses what they call a bayonet mount. I don't know if you know what a bayonet mount is, but basically it snaps in place and then locks itself. And in order to be able to get that off, you have to be able to push it back in, turn it, and pull it back out again.
Okay.
So it's like a bayonet on a rifle. The reason I pointed that one out is because if this was found floating, what I started wondering was how did it get disconnected from the boat?
Right.
So the fact that there is no bayonet on there or any other piece of material on there indicated that it must have been taken off at the time that was lost. The number three. So if you go down one little bit.
Whoops, sorry about that. Give me a second. I flip it around.
There you go. The number three circle has to do with the gas cap. There was no gas cap on this one, and this is 2 weeks after the boat was lost.
Okay.
And this was found floating upside down with no gas cap, and in Lake Ontario, which is not exactly the smoothest of lakes. So I found it very odd that in fact, this can was found with no gas cap upside down with no water on the inside of it.
Really?
It was very odd. It just opens up a whole bunch more questions. And as an investigator, the one thing you want to do is ask a lot of questions.
For sure.
And then hopefully you get a lot of answers.
And what questions did that immediately open up for you? Why don't we go over a few of those?
Are you asking me that?
Yeah. Since we're
okay. Well, it opened up three questions. It's not quite the Boston whaler. There's no There's no steering wheel on the one. It was a 25 horsepower engine at the back that was being handled that way.
But Bruce,
So-
that's similar to size, correct?
Yeah, 4 meters, about 14 feet.
Okay.
Boston whalers are considered unsinkable because they're basically fiberglass stuffed with styrofoam. So you can cut them in half. You can blow them with holes with a shotgun. They show this on their own website, and these things just don't sink.
They say that about Boston people too, I believe.
Yeah, don't get me started on Boston people. Being a Montreal Canadiens fan, I have.
God.
Okay,
All right. Thanks for joining
that.
us tonight. We'll conclude the interview there, and thanks for showing.
So if you go back to the gas can again, basically, it opened up a whole series of questions. The first question, obviously, was how did they actually recognize the can? Didn't seem like much of a dent to make it stand out that much. The second thing is, was the gas can actually disconnected by the boys? If in fact they disconnected it, and then the third one was why after 3 or 2 weeks on Lake Ontario was this thing upside down with no gas cap and still floating? So those are the questions that popped up on this one, and I'm still waiting for them to be answered. They're very difficult to answer because you're essentially asking them to explain a negative. So we'll see what happens on it. Anyway.
Okay.
So that's the only piece of evidence, quote unquote, that's been ascribed to the missing boys.
Okay.
Excuse me, sorry. We go back to the evening of March 17th. The fact that the boys went down to the marina, we found a lot of this since I wrote that first article back in 14, and then a number of other things I did back earlier than that. But one of the things that I found out, in fact, the boys had actually gone down to the marina the night before. There was some confusion that there was actually 2 boats stolen. One was the Boston Whaler. The other one was a tricycle, actually, a 3-wheeled bicycle, water bicycle. And in fact, that 3-wheeled water bicycle was actually taken the night before from a different marina. So on the night that the boys went missing, there was only one boat that was lost at that point in time.
Okay.
When the girlfriends went down to the police to report that the boys had not come back from the marina to the party like they said they would, the police basically brushed them off. Let's put it that way, and said, boys will be boys type of thing. And if they're still missing in the morning, have the parents come down and we'll file a case. The parents came down the following day. The case was filed, but the police still didn't do too much on it. It took them about 24 to 36 hours before they actually began the search. And if you watch TV on things like 24 and stuff like that, you'll know that the first 24 hours are the most important of the thing. So there was a Coast Guard, there was a Marine unit from Toronto, there was the Royal Canadian Air Force with the C-130 Hercules and a helicopter that were sent out. And there was leads followed up on, leads given that weren't followed up on. There was a lot of artifacts that were found around the water that were cataloged but not ascribed to any of the boys. There was really nothing that was found. No parts of the boat, no boat at all. No caps, no jackets, nothing. The police spent 36 hours on the investigation, roughly, and at the end of that period of time, they essentially declared that the boys had gone missing onto the water. It had been a misadventure. They had suffered hypothermia by falling out of the boat or jumping out of the boat or somehow getting into the water. They went to the bottom of the lake and their bodies have never come back up. Um, the Toronto Marine Unit were the ones that gave the information about cold water, essentially carrying and keeping the bodies at the bottom of the lake. I'm actually a cold water scuba diver myself, so I'm a commercial diver, but I have a cold water rating also. And I agree with them that the bodies can sink, but I could see maybe one or two of them sinking and staying, but I couldn't see all six of them staying down that length of time.
Okay.
You know, they were not heavily weighted, so that opened up a whole series of more questions that actually have never been answered at this point in time. So throughout the investigation, we tried to figure out, you know, if the boys did go missing, what in the evidence or the reports could we pull out to give us an idea of what was going on and what may have happened at that point in time? Because you have to, if you can't find the evidence that the boys drowned on the lake, then you're going to have to look at something else and try to eliminate those and eliminate everything that you can in order to be able to go back to the original assertion. And I'm not saying in any way that the police are wrong on this. Okay. What I am saying is that if the police are unable to provide the evidence to corroborate their conclusion, then as far as I'm concerned, the conclusion is not a conclusion. Okay. And that's the way I approach these things.
Or at the very least, it's definitely not definitive. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, there's nothing definitive in this thing at all. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
And the one thing that I always point out, and I pointed out to the families when I started working on this case, is that you know, this is not a foot race. This is a marathon. You know, it's going to take a long time. We're gonna find information. It's going to be disproved. It's going to be lack of proof about it. But we're going to keep pushing forward as much as we can on the case until such time as either we solve the case or we absolutely run out of anywhere to go with it.
Absolutely. So if I can ask you, so I am very behind compared to you guys on it. So I definitely want to make sure, Denise, I know you have a few questions. I just want to kind of ask one real quick, a very general one. From everything I could find from my quick research on the case, it's that they were talking beforehand about, you know, goofing off on a boat or something along those lines, that they were seen there. There is the boat missing. So everything that I could find appears to be that they had a plan to kind of mess around on the boat. And as far as we know, they got there and at least started the plan. But you're saying you don't see six of them having sank. So knowing what we know, what conclusion would you say is most likely about what are we looking at here? Because we know that they got to the marina, but you're saying you don't believe the six of them could have sunk. What are you thinking could have happened? What are the likely scenarios in your mind?
Well, I don't speculate on these types of things. I try and look for hard evidence, or at least soft evidence if I can. So I don't like to speculate, but let me open a couple of things up.
Okay.
The first thing is the video capture that went on at the marina. There was 2 cameras on that night, and it took me 3 separate access requests to finally get the video sent to me. The first time that I requested it, they said there was no video.
Okay.
So I had to go back at it, and it was the 3rd request that I finally got a copy of the video. When I ran the video, and by the way, we knew the video existed because the families were shown the video the day after the boys went missing. So we knew that the video actually did exist. We didn't know what form it would be in, but anyway, it was sent to me in an MP4 form, and I went through the video, all 6 hours of it.
Okay.
just to see, and then I did screen captures of it to determine what I was looking at that point in time. The first thing I had to do was I had to find out roughly where the cameras were being located. And that was difficult because that marina was quite large at one point in time. The photograph you're looking at right now is actually a Google Earth picture that has been regressed back to, I think, 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Well, Google Earth has a function called history, and I think it's this one. I can't really see it from here, but I think it's 2014 or 2012. So I initially thought maybe I figured out where the cameras were. Turned out that we were wrong initially, and it turned out that the cameras are at a completely different location. One was pointing towards the White House, which still exists. That gave us the idea where that was. And the other one was down in the. If you take a look at, if you lower your, if you lower to the yeah. Okay, now go to the left. Keep going a little bit there. Yeah, that's roughly where the second camera was. Okay?
Right about here.
Yeah, that was a movable camera, so that was swinging back and forth as we went, and that's where 3 of the 6 boys were actually noted on the film. They were identified by the families as being down there, and that camera angle indicated that the boys, in fact, were coming from the party, had gone past the area nearby the wharf itself into the area where the Boston whaler would have been kept. Okay.
Okay.
Now, saying that, we saw only 3 of the boys. On the rest of the tape, both the wide angle shot aimed towards going up Liverpool Avenue, and also the narrow one, the other three boys did not show up on the camera. Now, they could have come around the back of the camera, for all we know, but at no point in time did they show up on the camera itself. So from that, you have to conclude that yes, they were in the area. They were in the area of the boat. So yes, more than likely they had taken the boat out. The problem you get into is you have to ask yourself then the question of when they took the boat out, was there a reason why they took the boat out? Was it? Well, that's the movable camera actually.
Okay.
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, the large picture is actually the movable camera. The other picture is a longer focus one. You can see the White House at the end.
So this is where you pointed me to, right in front of the wharf there.
Yeah, this is the one that's near the wharf. The other one is further up. Is there another picture of the whole area?
This gets
I'm
stuck.
not sure if I sent another one of the whole area.
I do have probably not what you're looking for. Something like this that covers the whole area. This.
No, this is the one.
This one?
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah. So if you see the red arrows,
yeah,
that's the service area. Okay. So this is where the boys were seen.
Okay.
The blue arrow further up where it says inset view.
Mm-hmm.
That's the small image that's on the camera on the film.
Oh, okay.
And it points towards. You can see a green arrow going up. It's pointing towards the White House. So the White House that shows up in the long view of the video, the inset view of the other one. So when we go through this thing, we actually see vehicles coming into the area, and when you see them, they come in there. You can follow the sort of yellowish orange line. They come in at the top. They come along that long road, and then they make a right-hand turn. Okay. So they're coming down towards the bottom here. So they come in at the top. They make the left-hand turn. They go all the way down, make a right-hand turn, and then they park down in the area called the service area view.
Okay.
Okay. So the 2 cameras were, and these are approximated. Obviously, we don't know exactly where they were.
Right.
The cameras, especially the service area one. it's very easy to find out basically where the top one was, the inset view camera was. But you can see that the service area view is very close to the boat launch. And the boat launch is where the Boston whaler was being kept at that point in time.
Right here. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So that gives you an idea of the thing. Now the party was actually further north than this. It was this is the street along here, parallel to it is Liverpool Avenue.
Is north up towards the White House up here?
Yeah, but beyond that, quite a distance up is
Okay.
actually where the party was being held at that point.
I was going to ask you if they walked down there, how far did they walk? Because it was 39 degrees in 1995 there.
I actually measured that at one point in time. I don't recall exactly. It's probably in a range of about 300 yards, maybe.
Okay.
Can't say for sure, but it's in that range anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget they had their artificial warmers going. They drunk a few artificial warmers.
Right, right.
So,
Do you know how much? Did anybody ever state how? I mean,
No.
how much the boys had drank that night?
no. It's very difficult to talk to the people who are actually at the party because a lot of them don't want to talk about it. Same with the families. Can't really get a hold of all the families because one of the families moved away and no one knows where they are, and it's tough to talk to the other families. Jay Boyle's family have been the ones that came forward fastest. They were actually the first ones that I contacted when I started looking into this case. So Jay Boyle's family is really the one that I've been working closely with throughout this. He has four sisters. Must have driven him crazy. Yeah. So, but anyways, that's the family I deal with.
Just real quick, since we're on this subject right now, Susan Meyer asks, how do they know that they even took the boat?
Well, there's no guarantee that they actually did take the boat. The correlation was that the boat was missing, was reported missing the morning after the boys went missing themselves. There was apparently two people living on boats in the marina who had early in the morning had heard a motorboat leaving the marina and going out into the lake. So there's only the you have to surmise that in fact a boat was taken out onto the lake.
Right. Yeah. Louise Haraway says, could the boats have never been launched? Maybe the boats were never used. The gas can could have been thrown in the lake. If it was empty, the boat wouldn't have been of any use to them. But that wouldn't explain the fact that the boat went missing, of course, right?
No, and in fact, the gas can, according to the marina staff, the gas can on that boat had enough, had 3 gallons or so of fuel. Had enough to go about 25 miles.
Okay.
That's what they said at the point in time.
The one that went missing?
Yeah. Okay. So 25 miles, if you draw a circle from the marina, takes you in one direction almost to the edge of, actually to the edge of Toronto. It takes you halfway across the lake, certainly onto the American side of the lake, and then the other direction it takes you quite a distance down the coast also on the Canadian side. I should point out, by the way, that you asked the question earlier, Jason, or made the comment, or asked the question about the nuclear facility.
Right.
The reason why we investigated the nuclear facility, and by the way, we were unable to get the answers we were looking for, or at least to get the answers to the questions that we were asking, was because of the security surrounding the nuclear plant. And that kind of makes sense. The reason I took a look at that is because it's possible that with the amount of water that's being sucked into the nuclear plant, it's possible that things get sucked into it. So they have what's called trash racks there. But if they get past the trash racks, they can go into the impeller facilities and cause gumming up of the works and everything else. So I asked the questions of the hydro people, and I was not able to get answers for purposes of security, and that made sense to me. So it was kind of a a Hail Mary type of.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying everything at that point, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You never know what's going to work. Laughing Hawk, I think you had said the temperature, Denise. Laughing Hawk says, is there a record of the temperature of the water and the currents that day?
From what I saw, and I did some research through, about the lake. The depth of the lake is about 801 feet, if I'm correct, Bruce. And the temperature of the water on that day was roughly around, it stated 39 degrees. Is that correct?
Yeah, 39 Fahrenheit, right?
Yes, Fahrenheit. Sorry.
I
Yes.
don't live in Fahrenheit anymore. Yeah, it'd probably be.
We're weird like that over here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
But you notice I said that the boat was 14 feet long.
Right.
That sounds just about right. Close to the freezing level. There was still ice on the lake in some areas. Lake Ontario itself is not a fast moving lake at the surface.
Okay.
But further down it is quite fast moving.
Okay, that was a question I was going to ask you, is the currents.
Well,
I wondered that too.
It's interesting because the people who live there, who work there, one of the local fishermen who's been working on that lake for since God made hair, said that if that boat had gone missing on the lake, it would have been found someplace around Buffalo.
Okay.
That's what the currents were like.
Based on the currents, okay.
Yeah, based on the currents, it'd be found around Buffalo area. By the way, we checked in Buffalo and there was no boat. So the other thing is that the night that they went missing was actually flat calm. Okay. There was very little wind that night, so you wouldn't have an awful lot of wind current, if you want to call it that, or wind movement, and there wouldn't have been a lot of waves on that. But the current does move, and it obviously comes from Niagara area down through the lake and out to the St. Lawrence area. So that's why he says it would end up somewhere around Buffalo. If we come back to the boat itself, let me give you a scenario, okay? And the scenario in this particular case is that, in fact, the boat did not sink. That, in fact, what happened was the boat ended up on the U.S. side. It was pulled from the water, repainted, renumbered, sold, whatever. Okay, so then the question just became, well, what happened to the boys? And again, we're coming down to the question of what happened to the boys. We just don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a possibility. It capsizes, they drown and die. Someone finds a free boat, paints it, doesn't want to say anything because then they lose their free boat. Maybe You don't
have to paint it. All you have to do is put a U.S. number on it.
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert, but you find a free boat, and I would guess if I find this free boat, I know I shouldn't be taking this thing. It's not mine, right? So I take it, do whatever I got to do, put a number on it, now I get a free boat. Then I hear a bunch of kids died in relation to it. I'm probably going to shut up and say, oh, boy, I don't know what I got myself into here. Let me shut up and stay away from this story, right? I mean, that's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Right. By the way,
can I ask you real quick before we move forward, just for my own understanding? 39 degrees Fahrenheit, a few drunk teenagers. What's likely, if they do fall into that water, how long before they freeze and just completely, lose consciousness? I mean, that's pretty dang cold, right?
Yeah, it depends on an awful lot on their constitution, what they were wearing at the point in time, and everything else. But I would say probably no more than 60 seconds.
Okay.
Before they won't lose consciousness and everything else, but what they'll lose is they'll lose motor skills to be able to get back out of the boat.
Which once that starts happening, you're pretty much gone, right? I mean,
I would
If you don't
say,
have your wits about you and your motor skills to be able to pull your whole body weight back up, you're in trouble.
right.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. So you get about 60 seconds tops, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
I
not
wouldn't say
saying any of this happened. I'm just,
yeah. I wouldn't say tops. I'd say approximately 60 seconds. It might be more than that.
Okay. Either way, it's not long. We're not talking 10, 15 minutes by any means, Right.
I think I've just fallen in love with Kubi.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Just her picture or what she's saying or what?
Now what? Just a picture. Yeah.
There you go. Well, she's one of the main people on this channel, so stick
there you
around. You'll see plenty of her.
Okay.
Absolutely, Bruce. Yes, you
She's-
picked a
she's
good
the best.
one.
The answer to her question is yes, yes and no. The boat is not necessarily easy to capsize. It really depends. Now, the thing to understand is that although the 6 boys are there, they're not all novices to being in a boat. And in fact, 2 of the boys had a lot of experience in boats. So if there was a lot of kibitzing going on, chances are they would have put a stop to it. So, but if it did capsize, if it did capsize, obviously it causes a problem. But the first thing, did all the boys go in the water at the same time? Okay, that's the other question. If
Right.
one of them went in the water, could they have pulled the other one back out? If they did that, would they all lean over one side of the boat and then the boat capsizes? Who knows exactly
And,
what was
I mean,
going on.
just for the sake of thoroughness, did anyone ever look into, is there any friction between any of these boys that a fight could have broken out or someone could have tried to do something to the other one, then it's bad for all of them? I mean, just kind of try to think of anything here. Has that been looked into at all? If there were any
There was
between them?
there was no evidence of that. They were all good friends.
Okay.
So
Okay.
not to say that they couldn't have been a problem a bit further out. But let me throw you a little bone on one side of it, and let me give you a. At that point in time, back in 1995, there was a drug trade going on back and forth between the United States and Canada, and there was a fair amount of drugs being taken back and forth by boat.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I don't want to say that this actually happened, but let me tell you a little story. I have a cousin of mine who was involved in the drug trade in Florida, between Florida and the Bahamas. I asked him at one point in time what the secret to not being discovered was, and what he said was, "I owned both ends of the distribution chain." What did that mean? He owned the boat and the wharf that the boat left from in the Bahamas. He also owned the boat and the wharf that the boat went to in Florida. Okay, so he owned both ends of the distribution chain. So he was able to control the way information went back, or the way the drugs went back and forth between the Bahamas and Florida. Okay, in this case. Now, why is that important? I said that the gas can was found in a place called Wilson, New York. Wilson, New York has a marina there, and that marina is the sister marina to the one in Pickering, Ontario, where the boat went missing.
Okay.
Okay, so the same owners of the owners of the Pickering marina and the Wilson, New York marina are the same owners. So that opened up a question in my mind as to whether or not there was drugs involved in this thing, and that's part of what we're investigating now. There's another piece to that puzzle. I don't think I'll go into it because it's kind of, it could be slanderous. But there was a teacher who knew the boys, who was involved with the drug trade, back in 1995.
Oh wow.
I won't tell you too much about that, but the bottom line is that the the whole idea of the drug trade isn't taken off the table. And how that manifests itself is it's this way. First of all, the amount of gas that was in that can was underestimated. The boat actually made it all the way across to Wilson, New York, where it was taken out of the water. The gas can was removed at that point in time. The boat was lost. The gas can was found. That's another explanation, if you want to call it that, or postulation, I should say, more than anything else on that particular thing. So, and you never know. There's also the issue of, did the boys make it across to the United States and disappear? I mentioned the 25-mile radius of the gas in the can. There was a sighting of one of the boys down in the Scarborough, down the beaches area of Toronto, where he lived actually, and that was the day after they had gone disappeared. So it's possible that the boys ended up down there. If that was the case, then the gas can somehow made it across to Wilson, New York. Kind of counterintuitive, but
Would you agree though that's? I mean, to me that sounds. I mean, I would leave any scenario open, but 6. I mean, it's hard enough for one teenager to go missing and no trace for 25 years, but 6 people. I mean, I'd say that's even much more unlikely than 6 people going underwater, wouldn't you? I mean, 6 of them, and there's no trace that ever pops up of any of them. That seems a little unlikely, no?
Well, the thing is about with Canada and United States, and I know I've kind of talked a little bit about this with Bruce, there was not a lot of communication at that time between the areas. Am I correct, Bruce? That was...
Between the U.S. and Canada, you mean?
Right. That time with the searches and everything. It wasn't coinciding. Right. Nobody was looking on the United States side.
Right.
And as far as even age progression pictures of the boys, there is, in the United States, there's nothing. There's no missing persons flyers that went out in the United States. There has been nothing done in the U.S. At least they haven't been able to find throughout.
You're entirely right about that. I should say also that there was a number of reports in the files that I received from the police under access to information that indicated that reports of the boys being seen in certain parts of the United States, northern New York area. At a restaurant, they were identified with, by clothing, by people who knew them. So there are reports that indicate that maybe they made it across to the U.S. side. Now, maybe they didn't all make it across to the U.S. side.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe some of them went in the water. Maybe some of them continued on out. I don't believe that actually did occur. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because I've talked with the parents of some of the boys, and they have a hard time believing that after 25 years, their sons would never have contacted them at all. Mm-hmm. Okay. And in the case of Jay Boyle, he had a brand new daughter.
Okay. That's what Kubi was saying, that one of them had a,
Yeah. So he had a brand new daughter, and, he missed everything about that kid growing up. And would he have stayed away for any period of time? Even drug deals have a length of time associated with them. So chances are 25 years later, he wouldn't be charged with some sort of drug thing. So why would he stay disappeared? I had trouble with that side of it, but I can't put it aside. Mm-hmm. Because I can't prove or disprove it either.
Now, Bruce, there has not been any underwater searches, correct?
No, it was that was a strange one. I contacted a company in Belleville, Ontario, which is just a bit further west of here, east of here, Pickering. They're an underwater company, so a marine company, and they had received a contract from the Durham police to do a side scan sonar investigation of the area around the marina and out into the lake. And that contract was actually canceled by the Durham police for no reason at all. So there was never any investigation done using side scan sonar.
Can I ask you real quick, because we've had a lot of talk and questions in the chat. I just want to make sure I don't lose track of it. And I have a picture too about jeans, like reddish orange jeans or shorts being found. We get a picture. A lot of people talking about, I think one of the boys' mothers said that he was wearing it at a party or something. What's the story with these reddish orange jeans? Then I'm seeing someone here say, I knew of the few of the boys, says Frankenbeans. Remains were found with red jeans on in the Niagara region. Took years for them to compare DNA, and sadly was inconclusive. What's the story with these? Is there a lot of info to this? These reddish orange jeans or shorts?
Well, there's a lot of info. There's still a lot of questions around it. The police and the coroner think that they put it to bed, but not yet. Okay. Here's the story. In 1999, there was two bodies found floating in the Niagara River near the intake of the Ontario Hydro plant on the Niagara River. The one set of remains was basically a pair of red jeans with a black belt, a wallet that was empty, and there was a long bone in them and a multicolored sock. They were taken into custody by the Niagara Regional Police, and it took me a long time to get a copy of the police report, heavily redacted, by the way. But the police report said that the jeans that were found were, in fact, red denim jeans from Levi Strauss, size 32, and they were sent to the Hamilton General Hospital for autopsy. Okay, for autopsy in that particular case, there's only one bone. But I have not been able to get a copy of the autopsy yet. I'm still waiting for that. But the thing was that Jay Boyle himself, and we have a photograph of that someplace around.
You have a photo of the jeans. I sent that to you.
Yeah, well, there's actually a photo of Jay Boyle wearing, the night he disappeared, sitting on a bench wearing a pair of red Levi jeans.
Oh,
yes.
We don't have that, do we?
No, I did not give that to you because I wasn't sure if we could show it. So,
I see. Okay.
But I do have a copy of that. But there is where he's sitting in a chair and he's wearing jeans that are very close to that.
Yeah, his mother bought them for him. In fact, she bought him two pair of jeans at the same time, one red and one green. My understanding is back in 1995, red and green jeans were in fashion.
Okay.
Yes, they were. I can vouch for that.
I got to admit, in 1995, I was out west at that point in time. So, anyways, as I say, I went to the point of trying to get copies of the police report, and it was very heavily redacted. There was never any DNA done on the long bone. So the Boyle family actually put together an online petition, got I don't know 50,000 signatures or something like that, and the package was finally sent over to the Ontario coroner, and the Ontario coroner did their investigation, and ultimately, making a long story short here, really short, they said that the DNA that they recovered from the bone did not match the DNA of Jay Boyle. Now, having said that, again, the questions pop up. The first question that pops up was why is the report that I received from Niagara Police so heavily redacted? They initially claimed it was for privacy purposes. My question to them was, whose privacy? These are unidentified remains.
Right.
You don't know who they are. Are you protecting a bone? There was no answer to that question, by the way. Then I asked them, the second question was, why did you redact the name of the officer who filed the report? And there was never an answer to that one either. And then the third set of questions popped up when I went to visit with the coroner, with the sisters of Jay Boyle. This is after the bones have been sent over. Initially, they said that they could not recover the DNA to be able to do the tests. It took them quite a while after that, after being pushed a little bit, and said, yes, we did find the DNA, it didn't match. But what popped up during the meeting with the Ontario coroner was my question to them was, why did it take so long for the Niagara Police to send you the evidence box? And the answer in the minutes of the meeting was that the evidence box had been lost or misplaced by the Niagara Regional Police because they did some renovations in their offices, and then when they finally found them, they sent them over to the Ontario coroner. So then I turned around and asked the police, "Would you mind sending me a copy of the continuity sheets, the ones that if you follow anything with evidence, there's what they call continuity of evidence. So you have to take any forensic evidence and be able to follow exactly who's been touched them, where they've been located, where they're being shipped, who shipped them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there is no copy of a continuity form that they've been able to show me. But then the worst part was when the Ontario coroner, the forensic anthropologist there, described the pants that she was sent. She said that it's not possible that these were red Levi jeans from the 1990s.
It's not possible?
Not possible. That was her term. It took me a while to get a copy because they took notes. So did I, but I wanted their notes. And in the notes it says that right in the notes that Dr. Grespier said that it's not possible that these are red Levi jeans. She said there were orange pants with a fire retardant on them.
I mean, it could have faded being in the water all that time, right? I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
You got a photograph of the pants that you just.
Those weren't faded.
Yeah.
Well, they are faded a little bit.
They're a little not
pinkish in spots, but certainly not to the point where you can't see the Levi label on it.
For sure.
Right.
Those are red to my eye.
Yeah, and it's got.
You can even see the orange tags. I mean, the red, that's red next to orange. So these aren't orange.
Yeah.
So Bruce, is there any way somebody could send a picture of that to the Levi's company and actually see if they could determine what year those by the tag that's on the back?
I suppose we could. It's very difficult to do that because they don't have a lot of records themselves. I initially asked them at the time, could you describe for me or send me a photograph of a pair of pants from 1995 in the red and green at that point in time, and they didn't even bother getting back to me. Levi Strauss, by the way, is located someplace in Germany. So
right. I might have a pair from 1995 stuff.
I was wearing scuba suits back there.
Yeah, I was young back then, but yeah, I probably have a pair from 1995.
Showing your age, Denise.
Yep, show my age.
The bottom line on that whole issue is that is it possible that the pants that they sent, the evidence that they sent to the coroner, was not the evidence that was picked up back in 1999? That was 15 years later. So not to say that that there's something wrong here, not to say that somebody's doing something wrong, but it's again another question that needs to be answered.
Kubi, your friend Kubi, and Automobile, a few people are saying that Levi's jeans often have tags on the inside, and Auto saying multiple tags, couple tags that have the year on them, they say.
Well, there was two things that identified them as Levi's. Three things, actually.
Year. Yeah.
Yeah, show the picture and you can see the tag in the back.
Well, there was three things that identified them. We did find that out. The first one was the tag. The second one was the number of belt loops. Normally, Levi jeans have 5 belt loops, but in fact, the years that these red ones came out with the orange tag, as you can see there, had 7 belt loops. Okay. The third thing that identified them, and you can't see it too well on this picture, but there is that V stitching on the pocket. So those three things identified them as Levi jeans from the 1990s.
Okay.
Okay, red Levi jeans from the 1990s.
I think that's a pretty good piece. I would say that that's a pretty good piece of evidence in my mind, apart from the gas tank. But
yeah, don't forget this was found in 1999, 4 years after the boys disappeared. So who knows?
Right. So many questions on this case, and so many things that wasn't done. You know, my biggest question is because of the Boston Whaler, knowing that it is filled with foam, especially in the front. If what could have happened on this water? You know, if it was very calm that night, there wasn't a storm. You know, what could the boys have done in that boat to cause it to capsize, them fall out? That is confusing to me, especially because that boat's supposed to float.
Right. Even if the boat was broken up, I mean, one of the theories was that a freighter came along and ran over the boat.
Yeah, someone was asking earlier about if there's a record of any of the larger ships.
Yeah, well, there was no record of any freighters in that area at that point in time. That was number one. Number two, though, is even if the boat did get chewed up by a freighter, there would have been pieces of styrofoam and everything else floating down the lake, and there was never any reports of that either. Somebody's asking about the sonar on the lake. It might be a little bit late right now to be able to find, unless with the currents and the time frame, whatever is there might have been moved. But more important, there is a value to doing side scan sonar on certain areas of the lake. There are reports by fishermen and other people who spend time on that lake of things that they saw in their fish scanners that were never followed up on. There was a report at one point in time of a body being seen floating near the down around the eastern part of the lake, down around the General Motors plant, General Motors head office, I should say, it's down that way. That was never followed up on. There are a lot of things in the reports that were never followed up on by the police, and some of them are hard evidence or hard facts that could be. We could find, for example, the motor, because there was one that looked a little bit like a motor. So there is a value in being able to do some side scan sonar, but I really want to do it in a very specific area. Looking for the bodies is, by this point in time, 25 years later, would probably not work out well. Let's put it that way. I'm still hoping that we're able to find body parts being washed ashore on either the Canadian or American side over the years that have never been reported or never cataloged and compared to this case. there was a situation in British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada, in the Fraser River, where over a period of time, I believe it was 11 feet with shoes that had washed up on shore in that lake, and by doing DNA testing and everything else, they were able to actually identify 10 of the 11 feet. So, these, bodies tend to what they call dearticulate. The first thing that disappears, and this is gets a little bit gruesome, but the first thing that rolls away, if you want to call it, is the head, because the head is the heaviest part of the body. It's being held on by ligaments and muscles that have a tendency to go over time. So the head would fall away, but the feet are another thing that actually disarticulate quickly. So it's possible that we know what the boys were wearing at the point in time that they went missing. What kind of shoes they had on. If we could find body parts that have been found over the last 25 years, it may help us identify, or at least come to the conclusion that there's in fact they were lost in the lake.
Mm-hmm.
There's a group, I don't know if they'd want to take it on because of the age of this being so long ago, but are you familiar with Adventures with Purpose?
Yes.
Yeah, the divers. I wonder if this is something they consider, or if it's too old for them to.
Well, I
don't know their criteria or standards.
Yeah. I think in their case, there's probably two reasons for they wouldn't be able to take it on. First of all, they look for hard vehicles primarily. The second thing is that they look into small bodies of water.
Okay.
Compared to the lake. And then the third thing is it's an old case.
Old case, yeah.
So they wouldn't be in any better condition than anybody else to do it.
Okay.
But yeah, in fact, I sent them an email.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I didn't hear it back from them.
Okay. Yeah, I have spoken to them, so I wouldn't mind sending them something. If they didn't respond to you, I doubt they would bother responding to me. But yeah, nice group of guys for sure. But that would be my guess, is that they probably, for the reasons you named, just the age alone probably would be enough. Never mind the other things on top of it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we're over the hour mark, so I'm going to start to wind down. Denise, did you have anything that get to answer them? And I want to make sure that Bruce is able to get at everything he wants to say as well.
No, Bruce has actually answered the questions I had.
He's been amazing.
You have.
Kubi or anyone else, I think you got your pick in the chat, Bruce. They all love you.
Yes, you do, Bruce. No, thank you so much for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. I know we've chatted in the past, and definitely my goal is to do a lot more research on the United States side. I'd love to talk to people who lived around there. So I've been reaching out to people, but maybe there's something we can find to put the pieces together. It takes a team. Yep.
Absolutely.
I've been open as much as I can with on these particular cases. There's a couple of things that I have to keep back, more for slander reasons.
Right.
So I hate going to. Well, I don't hate going to court. I kind of like going to court, but for other reasons. No, the more people know about this thing, the more people, come up with ideas, even if they're crazy ideas. I mean, I got to tell you that there have been some very strange ideas put forward. Everything from aliens to people being stuffed into barrels. Just goes on and on and on. And as much as I don't believe in enough a lot of this kind of stuff, I appreciate the fact that some people are putting themselves out to be able to come up with these ideas.
Absolutely. You hear a lot of strange things in a lot of cases. I mean, you do. There's some of the things people can come up with, but it's definitely something, you kind of think about for a moment. And
sometimes it's harmful. Sometimes it's just hilarious. What they
Yep, exactly. But no, I greatly appreciate you absolutely coming on the show.
Yeah, they absolutely
Okay.
loved you, Bruce. We did too, of course. But I want to make sure that I know there's a lot you can't say, a lot you did say. Is there anything that you wanted to get to that we didn't? I don't want you to feel like you have to rush, or if there's something that you feel is important, by all means, get it out.
No, I think I've given you what I want to get out. I have 1,600 pages of information and videos and photographs and everything else. So I can't tell you everything, but I think you've got a good idea of what the situation is.
Yeah, you did a great job covering a lot of basics for sure.
The other thing that I would say to you though is kind of a warning to your audience, and the warning to your audience is that believe everything the police are telling you, but then ask them the questions about everything that they told you. Okay, because quite often they don't know the answers, and sometimes they're making up the answers without the knowledge of what the answers could be or should be. I've got a lot of respect for police. I've dealt with them now for close to 30 years on different things, and but I also understand that there are limitations to what they can say and what they can know. Okay.
Sure.
And sometimes they make things up. So just be cautious of that.
They're human just like us, right?
Well, yeah, okay. I'm not human.
You know, it's not what Kobe told me.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, this could be something we could follow up on and do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure we could probably do 10 of these, then Bruce could fill them up. But if anything comes that's like an actual real development, and you want to, and you're looking for outlets to get it out there to really update everyone, by all means, Bruce, we'd have you back anytime you want. So just let us know. Sometimes I get people that are looking to do second episodes, but it's like there really hasn't been any developments, So I try not to do too many of those. But if there actually is a real development that in the case that really makes a huge difference, and you want to come on, by all means, just let me know. You have my email, and also I don't know. I think you're on Facebook. If you wanted me to put a link to you on Facebook for people to contact you or anything like that, you can always email that to me, and I'll put that in. I didn't ask you beforehand, so I didn't want to link. I didn't want to, hey, everyone, contact Bruce, and you don't want me to do that, so I wanted to ask you first. But by all means,
there's actually three ways. I've got a Gmail address for a tip line.
Do you want to give that out, or
it's just lostboys.tipline@gmail.com.
Okay.
And then there's two Facebook pages. One is Lost Boys 95, which is the one that's maintained for the families, basically. But there's something in the range of between 3,000 and 5,000 followers on that page, that thing. And then I have my own page, which is called Seeking Truth Canada Facebook page, and that's where I put an awful lot of the stuff that I don't just do this case, by the way. I do an awful lot of other stuff, including a bunch of military heritage stuff. And I put all that there. One thing, the last thing for you is that I have done this entire project the last number of years entirely pro bono. I have not charged anybody a single cent for this, so I'm not out there, trying to build up my bank account on this. I'm trying to find answers to questions. Okay.
Yep.
Absolutely, we appreciate you, Bruce. You did amazing. I know the families appreciate you, because if this was my family, I would love having someone like you in our corner, man, out here. Doing as good a job as you do.
Actually, for your listeners, I got one other thing, a question to ask them.
Okay.
If anybody lives in the area of Northern Virginia, okay, can't remember the name of the town, Northern Virginia area anyway, there's somebody up there that has a tattoo on their right shoulder, I believe it is. It just says the word Cujo, C-U-J-O.
Okay.
I'm looking for that person.
just gonna leave it at that.
I'm looking at that person because one of the missing boys has a tattoo on his right shoulder that says Cujo.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know how many people have Cujo tattooed on their shoulder, but if anybody in your audience ever comes across or knows of someone with a tattoo that says Cujo, Cujo, have them get a hold of me.
Wow. Okay, that's very interesting. So Watcher says she's in East Tennessee, so not far. All right. Well, this will get. I can usually tell by how many people visit throughout the live stream, how many it'll get within the first 24 to 48 hours. So we got about between 700 to 1,000 people throughout this. So probably by tomorrow, I'll have 2,000 or 3,000 people. So I'd imagine that by tomorrow we'll have some people in the comments. So as you see, there's the chat here. Then there's also the comment section at the bottom. So if you check back tomorrow after a few thousand people have watched it, I can almost guarantee you there'll be 1 or 2 people at least that will respond to that. So we'll keep an eye on it for you.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on it too, but I'll also keep an eye on it too. And if anyone says, anything in relation to that, I'll shoot you an email.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's interesting, though. That's a great thing to end with, to give us something to look for.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
All right, we'll end it there. Thank you so much, guys. And anyone leave any comments, leave any additional comments below for Bruce, so you have his contact information. He was amazing. Thank you so much. Denise was amazing as always. So thank you to everyone for joining us, and thanks for watching Jason Hebert Live. Click subscribe, set the notification bell to all, and we will see you guys shortly. Thanks again, Denise and Bruce. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
All right,
Good
take
night.
care, guys.
Bye, guys.